My name is Gabrielle Lawson. I'm 29 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my father looked me in the eye and told me I'd be dead to this family if I opened a wooden box with my own name on it. That box had been hidden in my parents' attic for 12 years, since the day my grandfather died. Inside it was something my mom and dad were willing to lose their only daughter to keep secret. And when I finally opened it in front of 50-some guests at their 35th wedding anniversary party, not a single person in that room ever looked at my father the same way again. Before we get into this, if you end up connecting with my story, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe, but only if you genuinely feel it. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, let me take you back to a Saturday afternoon in late October, the day I climbed up into that attic. The drive from Columbus takes about 2 hours if traffic cooperates. That Saturday, it doesn't. I hit construction outside Zanesville and spend 40 minutes crawling past orange cones and a guy in a hard hat waving a sign that says slow. So I'm already running behind when I pull into my parents' gravel driveway in Millhaven, population 4,000, give or take a few funerals. Mom asked me to come help clear out the attic. Their 35th anniversary party is next Saturday, and Dad wants to set up folding tables in the garage, which means moving all the junk out of the garage, which means moving all the junk from the attic into the garage first. The logic is circular, but that's my father. Everything runs on his schedule, his system, his say-so. I find the house empty downstairs. Dad's out picking up rental chairs. Mom's at the church finalizing the dessert table. So I grab a flashlight and pull down the attic ladder myself. The attic smells the way it always has. Old wood, dust, and something faintly sweet, like dried tobacco. Grandpa Eugene used to smoke a pipe up here when Grandma was alive, and wouldn't let him do it in the house. That smell is him, even after all these years. I start shifting boxes, Christmas ornaments, old tax files, a broken humidifier, and then, behind a stack of plastic bins marked Todd, High School, I see it. A wooden box, dark walnut, maybe 10 inches long, sealed with red wax, an actual wax seal, pressed with what looks like a signet ring, and on the lid, in black ink, in handwriting I would recognize anywhere on this earth. Gabrielle. All capitals, slightly tilted to the right, like he was always in a hurry to say something important. My grandfather's hand wrote my name on this box, and I have never seen it before in my life. I carry the box downstairs. It's heavier than it looks. Something solid shifts inside when I tilt it. Dad's truck pulls into the driveway just as I reach the kitchen. I hear him stomp the mud off his boots on the porch. The screen door swings open, and he walks in carrying a folding chair under each arm, already talking. "Diane, did you call the rental place about the—" He sees me. He sees the box. The chairs hit the floor. I've watched my father stare down plumbing contractors, church deacons, and a county inspector who tried to fine him for a fence violation. I have never, not once, seen the color leave his face the way it does right now. "Where did you find that?" Not a question, a demand. "Attic, behind Todd's stuff. Dad, what is—" He crosses the kitchen in 3 steps and grabs it out of my hands. His other hand clamps around my forearm, hard, the kind of grip that leaves a mark. "Open that, and you're dead to this family." His voice is low, controlled, shaking at the edges. I stare at him. "It has my name on it." "It's nothing. Your grandfather was confused at the end. Put it back." The screen door opens again. Mom stands there with a foil-covered casserole dish, car keys still dangling from her pinky finger. She looks at the box. She looks at Dad's hand on my arm. She looks at me. She doesn't say a word. She turns and sets the casserole on the counter, her back to both of us. And that silence tells me everything. She isn't surprised. She's known about this box all along. I pull my arm free, set the box on the kitchen table. If it's nothing, then it shouldn't matter if I open it. Dad leaves the room, slams the bedroom door so hard the picture frames rattle down the hallway. Mom sinks into a kitchen chair. both hands over her face. Not crying yet, just bracing. I sit down across from her and pull the box toward me. The wax seal is old and brittle. I crack it with my thumbnail. Underneath, a small brass clasp holds the lid shut. I flip it. Inside, a manila envelope, thick, slightly yellowed, and beneath it, a smaller white envelope with my full name typed on the front. Gabrielle Marie Lawson. I open the manila envelope first. 3 sets of stapled documents slide out onto the table. I unfold the first one and read the header. Warranty Deed, State of Ohio, County of Fairfield. Grantor, Eugene R. Mercer. Grantee, Gabrielle Marie Lawson. Property address, 412 Main Street, Mill Haven, Ohio. Date of transfer, June 14, 2002. I was 6 years old. The second deed, 40 acres of agricultural land off Route 33. Same date, same grantor, same grantee, me. The third, a cabin on Buckeye Lake, transferred to me. June 14, 2002. My hands aren't steady anymore. I open the white envelope. 4 pages of stationery, college ruled, covered in Grandpa Eugene's handwriting. The first line reads, Gabby, if you're reading this, it means they didn't give it to you willingly. I'm sorry. I read that sentence 3 times. My vision blurs. I set the letter down and look at my mother. She still hasn't moved her hands from her face. Mom. My voice comes out quieter than I expect. Look at me. How long have you known about this? She lowers her hands. Her mascara has already started to run. Since the day he died. I read the letter at the kitchen table while my mother sits 3 feet away and says nothing. Grandpa Eugene's handwriting gets shakier toward the end, but his mind was razor sharp on every page. He laid it out plainly. In 2002, he transferred all 3 properties into my name specifically because he didn't trust my father with them. The deeds were filed with the county recorder. The originals were placed in this box, and copies, along with a sworn affidavit, were left with his attorney, a man named Harold Finch. Then the part that makes my stomach drop. Grandpa wrote that he'd discovered, in the last year of his life, that Dad had taken out mortgage loans against at least 2 of the 3 properties. Loans signed by Raymond Lawson as guardian, even though the deeds never granted him any authority to encumber the properties. He did it through connections at the local bank. He did it without telling anyone. He did it while I was still a teenager who didn't even know she owned anything. Grandpa's instructions to Finch were specific. If I didn't contact the lawyer before my 30th birthday, Finch was authorized to initiate litigation on my behalf, automatically. No exceptions, no family negotiations. I set the letter down. My 30th birthday is February 8th, less than 3 months away. I look at my mother. Dad said Grandpa was confused. She shakes her head once, small, like it costs her something. Your father said it would destroy the family. Which part? I ask. The stealing, or me finding out? She doesn't answer. She just folds her hands in her lap and stares at the tablecloth like it contains instructions for how to survive this moment. It doesn't. At the bottom of the last page, in a box drawn with a ruler, Grandpa wrote Harold Finch's phone number. I copy it into my phone. Here's what you need to know about my grandfather. Eugene Mercer was a retired surveyor who smelled like pipe tobacco and WD-40 and always had dirt under his fingernails. He taught me how to bait a hook when I was 4, how to replace a fence post when I was 7, how to check a property line when I was 10, though I didn't understand why that mattered until about 3 hours ago. Every summer, he'd pick me up in his blue Ford F-150 and we'd drive out to Buckeye Lake, to the cabin. He'd fish, I'd swim. He'd make grilled cheese on a camp stove and tell me stories about my grandmother, who died before I was born. When I was 15, he started saying things I didn't fully understand. Gabby, one day you'll have something of your own. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I thought he was being philosophical, the way old men get. He wasn't. He was warning me. Grandpa Eugene died of a stroke in March of 2014. I was 17, a junior in high school, and my father told me I couldn't go to the funeral because I had midterms that week. I begged. Dad said no. Mom said nothing. I took my exams and visited the grave 2 weeks later, alone, standing in the rain with a gas station bouquet. I didn't meet the other mourners. I didn't meet the people who knew him. I didn't meet Harold Finch. And sitting at this kitchen table now, 12 years later, holding Grandpa's letter in hands that won't stop shaking, I understand why. Dad didn't keep me from the funeral because of midterms. He kept me from the funeral because the lawyer would have been there, and the lawyer knew everything. The bedroom door opens. Dad walks back into the kitchen like he's entering a courtroom, shoulders squared, jaw set. He sees the deeds spread across the table, the letter, the open box. He doesn't flinch. He was expecting this. You don't understand what you're looking at. He pulls out a chair and sits down, folds his hands, calm now, rehearsed. Those properties were underwater. Taxes, maintenance, liability. I saved them from foreclosure. You should be thanking me. By taking out loans in my name without my knowledge? In your name? You were 6. What were you going to do? Manage a rental property from first grade? I was 23, 25, 29. I could have managed them at any point in the last decade. He leans forward. I fed you. I clothed you. I paid for your braces, your car insurance, your first apartment deposit. And this is how you repay me? Over some paper? Mom is still at the table. She hasn't moved. Todd's truck rumbles into the driveway outside. He's early for party setup. The front door opens and he walks in carrying a case of beer, sees the 3 of us frozen around the kitchen table, and stops. What's going on? Dad. Nothing. Your sister found some old paperwork. But Todd looks at the deeds, looks at the box, looks at Dad's face, and his expression doesn't change the way an innocent person's would. There's no confusion, no curiosity. There's recognition. He knew. My brother already knew about this box. I watch him set the beer on the counter, carefully, like the sound might detonate something. He doesn't look at me. Gab, don't blow this up. It's their anniversary next week. I stand. You knew? How long? Todd exhales through his nose, runs a hand over his jaw. He's 33 years old and still can't look me in the eye when he's caught. 3 years, he says. I overheard Mom and Dad arguing about it. And you said nothing. I figured Dad had it handled. It's not like you were using those properties. The air leaves my lungs. I look at my brother, the one who got the house, the car, the startup money for the bar that lasted 8 months, the one who always had something while I had a studio apartment in Columbus and a used Honda with 160,000 miles. The deposit on your house, Todd. I keep my voice level. $45,000. Where did that come from? Silence. Total, airless silence. Mom closes her eyes. Dad's knuckles go white on the table edge. Todd just stands there, mouth half open, no sound coming out. That's my answer. Dad pushes back from the table. You walk out that door with those papers, you don't come back. I gather the deeds, the letter. I put them in my purse, carefully, the way you handle something that was stolen from you and just returned. Mom follows me to the porch. Her hand catches my sleeve. Gabby, please. The party is next Saturday. Don't ruin this for us. I stop on the second step. I turn around. Mom, you hid this from me for 12 years. The party is the last thing I'm thinking about right now. I drive back to Columbus with the windows down, even though it's 40 degrees and my fingers ache on the steering wheel. My hands are still shaking, but for the first time in a very long time, my head is perfectly clear. Monday morning, I sit in my car in the parking lot of the law office where I work. I'm an administrative assistant, not a lawyer, but I've spent enough time around legal documents to know what a valid deed looks like. I dial the number from Grandpa's letter. 2 rings. Finch and Associates. This is Harold. The voice is old, precise, like a clock that still keeps perfect time. Mr. Finch, my name is Gabrielle Lawson. Eugene Mercer was my... Gabrielle. He says it the way you say a word you've been rehearsing for over a decade. I've been waiting for this call for 12 years. He asks me to come to his office in Lancaster. I take a half day and drive 40 minutes south. Harold Finch is 74. Silver hair, reading glasses on a chain, an office that smells like old books and printer toner. He shakes my hand with both of his and holds on a beat too long, like he's confirming I'm real. He tells me everything. He sent me 2 letters, one when I turned 21, one at 25. Both came back, returned to sender. He contacted the Millhaven post office and discovered that my forwarding address had been changed by my father. I considered driving to your apartment, Finch says, but Eugene's instructions were clear. You had to come to me. He wanted it to be your choice. He opens a filing cabinet and pulls out a folder 3 inches thick. Copies of every deed. The affidavit Eugene swore before a notary. A timeline of every mortgage Raymond filed. Your grandfather was not confused, Gabrielle. He was the most deliberate client I ever had. Finch looks at me over his glasses. Do you want me to file now, or do you want to give them a chance to make this right? I tell him I need a week to think. By Wednesday, the phone calls start. Dad has been busy. He's called every aunt, uncle, and cousin within a 2-state radius. And the version of events he's selling doesn't include mortgage fraud or sealed boxes. Aunt Carol calls first. Gabby, honey, your father says you found some old documents and you're threatening to sue over property after everything he's done for you? Uncle Jerry texts, family is family, don't be the one to break it. My cousin Marcus, who I haven't spoken to since Thanksgiving 2022, sends a message. Heard you're going after your parents for money. Classy. Todd posts in the family group chat. 31 people, including second cousins I've never met. Some people will sell their family for a property deed. I screenshot everything. I don't respond to any of it. Dad's narrative is clean and simple. Ungrateful daughter finds old paperwork, hires a lawyer, tries to extort her aging parents right before their anniversary. He leaves out the 12 years, the forged signatures, the mortgage loans, the sealed box. By Thursday, I've gotten 9 calls, 2 voicemails, 14 texts, all some version of, how could you do this to Ray and Diane? Then, on Friday night, my phone rings, and I almost don't answer. But the area code is different, not Millhaven. It's Aunt Maggie, Mom's younger sister. The one who moved to Pittsburgh and only comes to family events every other year. She doesn't start with an accusation. She doesn't start with advice. She starts with 6 words no one else has said. Gabby, tell me your side. I sit on my apartment floor with my back against the wall, and for the first time all week, I talk. Maggie drives 4 hours from Pittsburgh the next morning. We meet at a coffee shop on High Street in Columbus, the kind with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu. She orders black coffee and doesn't touch it. I lay everything out. The box, the deeds, Grandpa's letter, Finch, the forwarded mail, all of it. She listens without interrupting. When I finish, she sits back and pinches the bridge of her nose. Before your grandfather died, she says, he called me. It was February, a month before the stroke. He said, Maggie, if anything happens to me, make sure Gabby gets what's hers. Raymond is drowning and he'll take her down with him. Why didn't you? I thought he meant keepsakes, his pocket watch, maybe the fishing rod. She shakes her head. I didn't know about the properties. I didn't know about any of it. After the funeral, your father told the whole family Eugene left nothing but debt. I believed him. She wraps her hands around her untouched coffee. I should have dug deeper. I'm sorry, Gabby. You're the only one who even asked for my side. That's more than enough. We sit in silence for a minute. Outside, a bus hisses past the window. Then Maggie says something I'm not expecting. The anniversary party. Are you going? Dad told me not to come back. That's not what I asked. I look at her. She looks back. There's something in her expression, Not anger, not pity. Something steadier than both. If you need someone standing next to you, she says, I'll be there. I nod. She nods. We don't hug. That's not Maggie's style. But she squeezes my hand once across the table, and it's enough. Monday. I take my lunch break at the Fairfield County Recorder's office. Working in a law firm has taught me at least one useful thing. Public records are public. I sit at a computer terminal in a basement that smells like carpet cleaner and pull up the property records one by one. 412 Main Street, Millhaven. Deed in my name, confirmed. Mortgage lien filed 2016, $180,000, borrower Raymond T. Lawson. He signed as guardian of the property owner. There was no court order granting him that authority. None on file. I checked twice. 40 acres off Route 33. Deed in my name, confirmed. Mortgage lien filed 2018, $95,000. Same signature. Same lack of authorization. The cabin on Buckeye Lake. Deed in my name, confirmed. No mortgage. But there's an active rental agreement. Tenant paying $1,200 a month. Payments routed to an account under Raymond T. Lawson. I do the math in the parking lot, sitting in my Honda with the engine off and the heater broken. $180,000 plus $95,000 in loans taken against my property. $1,200 a month in cabin rent for roughly 8 years. That's $115,000 in income collected from my asset. Total, approximately $390,000. $390,000. And then I think about Todd's house, the $45,000 down payment. I pull up the timeline Finch gave me. Todd closed on his house in March 2022. The cabin rental account shows a $45,000 withdrawal in February 2022. My brother bought his home with rent money from my cabin. I sit there for 20 minutes. The parking lot empties around me. A woman walks past with a stroller and doesn't glance over. I'm not angry anymore. I'm past that. What I feel is a cold, clean clarity, like a window somebody finally washed. I know exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, I need to pause here for a second. I know some of you are thinking, why didn't she just take the papers straight to a lawyer and file immediately? And honestly, part of me wanted to believe there was an explanation, that my dad had some reason I hadn't considered. 12 years of dad knows best doesn't just disappear in an afternoon. But the cabin rent going to Todd's down payment, that broke something in me. That was my money, from my property, and nobody told me. What would you have done at this point? And do you think Todd has any right to be upset with me? Let me know in the comments. All right. What happened next is where everything started to accelerate. Tuesday night, my phone lights up. Dad. I let it ring 4 times before I pick up. His voice is different, controlled, almost corporate. He's had time to prepare. I talked to a lawyer, Gabrielle. You have no case. Those loans saved the properties from going to tax sale. Without me, they'd be gone. I know he's lying. Finch already confirmed. Grandpa paid off every tax lien before transferring the deeds. The properties were free and clear. There was no risk of loss. There was only Raymond, needing cash he couldn't earn. Dad, that's not accurate. You want to throw your family away over what some senile old man wrote on a piece of paper? I don't take the bait. Is that all? One more thing. His voice drops. If you don't come to the party Saturday and act like everything's normal, I'm changing the locks. You'll never set foot in this house again. I hang up. 20 minutes later, Todd calls. His tone is softer, but the message is the same. Gab, you really want to be that person? The one who sues her own parents? Think about what people will say. I don't answer him either. Then, at 11 p.m., a text from Mom. Just one sentence. Please just come to the party. We can talk after. I promise. I stare at that word. After. I've heard it my whole life. After the holidays. After Todd's graduation. After the bar opens. After Dad calms down. After, is where conversations go to die in this family. I open my contacts and scroll to Harold Finch. Mr. Finch, I'd like to invite you to a party. A pause. Then, I thought you might. Tell me where and when. The rest of the week moves like a countdown. Wednesday, I go back to Finch's office. He makes copies of everything: deeds, affidavit, the mortgage records from the county, and puts the originals in his safe. I leave with a manila folder and a clear set of instructions. Present the facts. Stay calm. Let the paperwork do the talking. Thursday, Maggie calls to confirm she's driving down from Pittsburgh Friday night. She'll stay at a motel outside Millhaven so nobody sees her car early. Friday evening, I stand in front of my closet for 20 minutes. I don't want to look angry. I don't want to look like I'm making a statement. I pick a navy blouse, dark jeans, and flats. Simple, composed, like someone who has every right to be where she is. I put the manila folder in my bag, zip it shut. It's heavier than a folder should be. Saturday morning, Finch texts, "Departing Lancaster at 10, see you there." He'll arrive on his own. A 74-year-old man in a gray suit carrying a leather briefcase. Just another guest, as far as anyone can tell. The party is set for noon. Backyard, white tent, folding tables, a potluck spread because Diane Lawson would never let someone else cater her own anniversary. Roughly 50 guests, relatives from both sides, neighbors, friends from church, a few of Dad's plumbing clients, and, I checked the list Mom posted in the family chat, Mr. Wellman, the branch manager at Millhaven Savings and Trust, the man who approved Raymond's loans. He's coming to celebrate a marriage that was financed, in part, with money stolen from me. I lock my apartment, start the car, and drive east toward a party I was told not to attend. The tent is already up when I pull in. White vinyl stretched across aluminum poles, string lights threaded along the edges, even though it's midday. A folding table with a hand-painted banner. Happy 35th Ray and Diane. Mom's handwriting. Dad meets me at the driveway gate. He's wearing a sport coat I've never seen, probably bought for the occasion. He wraps his arm around my shoulder and squeezes. To any onlooker, it's a father greeting his daughter. His fingers dig into my collarbone. "Not a word," he murmurs into my hair. "Not tonight." I smile, nod, walk past him into the yard. The scene is exactly what you'd expect from a small-town anniversary. Casserole dishes covered in foil, a cooler of domestic beer, paper plates with floral trim, Kenny Chesney playing from a Bluetooth speaker on the porch railing. Neighbors shake my hand. Aunt Carol tells me I look thin. Uncle Jerry asks if I'm still in Columbus. Mom moves through this crowd in a lavender dress, hugging everyone, laughing a little too loud. But her eyes are swollen under her makeup. She's been crying this morning, maybe all week. Todd stands by the drink table with his wife, Kristen. He nods at me across the yard but doesn't come over. Kristen waves, friendly, oblivious. She has no idea. Then I see Harold Finch. He's near the back of the tent, sitting in a folding chair with a paper plate of potato salad he isn't eating. Gray suit, leather briefcase between his feet. He looks like someone's retired accountant. Nobody pays him any attention. He catches my eye and gives me a single nod. "Ready when you are." Maggie arrives 5 minutes later, hugs me tight, whispers, "I'm right here." I check the time. Dad's speech is scheduled for 1 o'clock. At 1:10, Dad taps his glass with a butter knife. The chatter dies down in waves. First the people near the head table, then the clusters by the tent poles, then the kids chasing each other near the fence. 50-some faces turn toward Raymond Lawson. He stands with his shoulders back, champagne glass in one hand, a folded piece of paper in the other. The afternoon sun hits the side of his face and he looks for a moment like the man everyone here believes he is. Solid, reliable, the guy who fixes your pipes and coaches Little League and never misses a Sunday. 35 years, he begins. Diane and I started with nothing, a 2-bedroom rental and a maxed-out credit card. Light laughter. Every decision I've made for my family. Every sacrifice, every late night. I'm not a perfect man. I know that. But I have always put this family first. Applause. Real, warm applause from people who've known him for decades. He turns to Mom. Diane, you're the reason any of this worked. She dabs her eyes with a napkin. More applause. Then he finds me in the crowd, locks eyes, and delivers the line I know is meant as a warning. And Gabby? I know we don't always see eye to eye, but you're my daughter, and I love you. The crowd makes a soft collective sound, a few ahs. Aunt Carol puts her hand over her heart. I hear the word sacrifice and think of $390,000. I hear, put this family first, and think of a box sealed in wax, hidden behind my brother's high school yearbooks for 12 years. The applause fades. Dad sits down, picks up his fork. I stand up. Can I say a few words too, Dad? Every head in the tent turns toward me. Dad's fork hovers over his plate. His eyes narrow, just a fraction, just enough for me to see the calculation happening behind them. He can't refuse. Not in front of 50 people who just watched him say he loves me. Of course, sweetheart. He gestures with his champagne glass, magnanimous. Go ahead. I stand where everyone can see me. Maggie is 3 chairs to my left. Finch is near the back, briefcase still between his feet. I don't look at either of them. I look at the crowd. I want to talk about Grandpa Eugene tonight. A few smiles, nods. Old Hank Patterson, Grandpa's chess partner, 78 years old, suspenders and a bolo tie, leans forward in his chair like I've said the magic word. Because this family wouldn't exist without him, I continue. He helped Mom and Dad put the down payment on this house. He paid for Todd's driving lessons. He took me fishing every summer until I was 15. He was a planner. He thought about the future more than anyone I've ever known. Safe territory so far. Dad's shoulders loosen a degree. He thinks I'm giving a tribute. And before he died, Grandpa planned something for me. The shoulders tighten again. He left me a sealed box, with my name on it, in his handwriting. The yard goes quiet. Not church quiet. Courtroom quiet. Dad stands. Gabby, this isn't the time. I look at him. 50 people look at him. And I say the truest thing I've said in 29 years. Dad, you had 12 years. I think tonight is exactly the time. He doesn't sit back down, but he doesn't move toward me either. He's frozen, and everyone is watching. Sit down. Dad's voice drops to the register he uses when he thinks volume isn't necessary, when he believes authority alone will do the work. Now. But this isn't his kitchen. This is a tent full of people who are already leaning forward in their folding chairs. Aunt Carol. Ray, let her talk. Mom, from the head table, small and strained. Ray, let her finish. He rounds on her. Stay out of this, Diane. A ripple moves through the crowd. Uncle Jerry sets down his beer. Kristen, Todd's wife, pulls out her phone instinctively, then puts it back. Todd pushes his chair out. Come on, Gab. Let's talk about this outside. He reaches for my arm. I step back. The same arm Dad grabbed in the kitchen 2 weeks ago. No. I'm going to say this here. I reach into my bag and pull out the manila folder. I don't open it yet. I hold it against my chest. When Grandpa Eugene died in 2014, he left a sealed box with my name on it. Mom and Dad put it in the attic. They never told me it existed. I found it 3 weeks ago. Whispers now. Aunt Carol's mouth is open. Uncle Jerry looks at Dad. Mr. Wellman, the banker, who was mid-bite on a piece of cornbread, sets it down very slowly. Inside that box were 3 property deeds, in my name, transferred to me when I was 6 years old. Old Hank Patterson pushes himself to standing, one hand on his chair back. His voice carries clear across the tent. Eugene told me about that box. The entire yard turns to look at him. He told me in 2013, said it was for Gabby, said nobody else was supposed to touch it. Dad stares at Hank, then at me, then at the folder in my hands. The yard is so quiet, I can hear the string lights buzzing above us. Kenny Chesney has moved on to a ballad about small towns and Friday nights, and it sounds obscene right now. All that cheerful twang against this silence. Dad tries one more time. He turns to the crowd, palms out, the posture of a reasonable man. Listen, Eugene was sick at the end. He wasn't thinking straight. He made promises he couldn't keep, and I had to clean up the mess. Hank doesn't sit down. Eugene Mercer was sharper at 70 than most men at 40. I played chess with him every Tuesday for 11 years. He never made a move without thinking 3 ahead. A murmur rolls through the tent. People are looking at Dad now with something new. Not hostility yet, but doubt. Questions forming behind their eyes. Then Harold Finch stands up. He's unhurried about it, picks up his briefcase, buttons his jacket, walks to the front of the tent with the steady gait of a man who has done this in rooms far more adversarial than a backyard in Millhaven, Ohio. Mr. Lawson, Finch says. His voice is quiet but cuts through the murmuring like a tuning fork. I think it's time we clarify a few things. Dad turns, sees the briefcase, the suit, the reading glasses on a chain, and recognition lands on his face like a slap. Who invited you? Finch sets his briefcase on the nearest table, next to a platter of deviled eggs. Eugene did, 12 years ago. The speaker on the porch finishes its song. For 3 full seconds, there's no sound at all, just 50 people holding their breath and the faint lap of wind against the tent vinyl. Finch opens the briefcase. Finch lays 3 documents on the table side by side. He moves the deviled eggs without comment. My name is Harold Finch. I was Eugene Mercer's attorney for 22 years. He pauses to let that settle. Before his death, Eugene placed 3 properties in his granddaughter's name: 412 Main Street, 40 acres off Route 33, and a cabin on Buckeye Lake. These are recorded deeds filed with the Fairfield County Recorder. They are not ambiguous. They are not disputed. They are legal fact. He removes a 4th document, the affidavit. Eugene also left a sworn statement documenting his concern that Mr. Lawson had taken mortgage loans against 2 of these properties without legal authority. I have confirmed this through county records. The loans were signed by Raymond Lawson as guardian, a role the deeds did not grant him. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't gesture. He stands there like a man reading a weather report, and every word lands like a stone dropped into still water. Dad, those properties would have been lost without me. Finch. There was no risk of loss. Eugene paid off all debts on these properties before transferring them. They were free and clear. Someone to my right, I think it's a neighbor, Mrs. Pace, whispers, "Oh my God." Uncle Jerry, arms crossed now. "Ray, is this true?" Dad opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. No sound comes out. Mom is crying openly at the head table. Not the performative tears I've seen her use to end arguments. Real crying, the kind that bends you forward and won't stop. Mr. Wellman, the banker, pushes back from his table, stands, quietly excuses himself, and walks toward the driveway without making eye contact with anyone. Nobody stops him. Everybody notices. Dad shifts tactics the way a man shifts weight on a sinking boat, fast, desperate, instinctive. I did it for this family. His voice cracks for the first time. Not with authority, with something raw. You think I wanted to borrow against those properties? I had no choice. Do you know what it costs to keep a roof over your heads? Do you know how many nights I sat up worrying about bills? A few of the older relatives look uncomfortable. Aunt Carol stares at her hands. This is the version of Raymond they might have believed, if it had been offered 3 weeks ago, in private with an apology, but not here, not after sealed boxes and hidden deeds and 12 years of silence. Todd. Dad, stop. Raymond doesn't stop. He points at me. And you. You sit in your little apartment in Columbus and you think you know something? I built this. Everything you see, this house, this yard, this family, me. Uncle Jerry. Ray, nobody's arguing about that. But you took the girl's property. The sentence hangs in the air. Took the girl's property. Simple. Factual. Devastating. Dad turns to Mom. Last card. Tell them, Diane. Tell them it was your idea too. The tent goes silent again. Every eye on my mother. And Diane Lawson, who has spent 35 years agreeing, accommodating, smoothing over, keeping the peace at every cost, looks at her husband across a table littered with anniversary decorations and says, "No, it was yours, Ray. It was always yours." Her voice is barely above a whisper, but it reaches every corner of the tent. "I told you she'd find out." Dad stands there with his mouth open. Nobody moves. That's the first time in 35 years my mother has publicly said no to my father. I let the silence breathe for exactly 3 seconds. Then I turn to my brother. "Todd, your house, the $45,000 down payment. Where did that come from?" He's still standing by the drink table, a bottle of beer sweating in his hand. He hasn't taken a sip in 10 minutes. "That's not relevant." Finch, still at the front table, doesn't look up from his documents. "If I may, I have records showing a $45,000 withdrawal from the rental income account associated with the Buckeye Lake cabin, dated February 2022. He pauses. "Mr. Todd Lawson closed on his home in March 2022. The math is not complicated. 50 people do it at the same time." Kristen stands up. She's 31, a dental hygienist, and she's been married to Todd for 4 years. She believed, because Todd told her, that the down payment came from their combined savings and a small loan from his parents. "What is he talking about, Todd?" Todd sets the beer down, opens his mouth, closes it. For a moment, he looks exactly like our father did 2 minutes ago. Jaw working, no words, the machinery of excuses grinding to a halt. He doesn't answer. He walks out of the tent, past the folding tables, past the banner that says, "Happy 35th, and disappears around the side of the house. Kristen watches him go. She looks at me. She looks at Finch. She presses her lips together, not with anger, but with the particular expression of a woman who's just realized the ground she's standing on is not what she was told. "Excuse me," she says to no one in particular, and follows him. Aunt Maggie, from her chair, says just loud enough for me to hear, "That's 2 marriages he's shaken in one afternoon." I take a breath. The yard smells like grilled hamburgers and cut grass and someone's too sweet perfume, and underneath all of it, the faintest trace of pipe tobacco that's probably just my imagination, but feels like permission. I face the tent. 50 people who watched me grow up, who sent me birthday cards and graduation checks and casserole dishes when Grandpa died. I owe them the truth without venom. I didn't come here tonight to humiliate anyone. I keep my voice at the level you'd use to explain something difficult to someone you respect. I came because I spent 12 years being told I wasn't ready, wasn't responsible, wasn't enough. And it turns out the whole time, I was the one who had something, and it was taken from me. Hank nods. Maggie nods. A woman I don't recognize, maybe a church friend, has her hand over her mouth. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for what's legally mine. And I'm asking for the truth, which I think everyone in this room deserved to hear a long time ago. I turn to Dad. He's still standing, but the posture is different now. Smaller, like a building after the scaffolding comes down. "Dad, I love you, but I can't pretend this didn't happen, and I won't." I turn to Mom. "Mom, you could have told me any time in 12 years. I hope someday you'll understand why that matters." Finch speaks one last time, in the same measured tone. "For the record, if the properties are not returned to Ms. Lawson's control within 90 days, litigation will proceed automatically per Mr. Mercer's instructions." I sit down. Maggie takes my hand under the table and holds it. Nobody claps. Nobody needs to. The silence is its own verdict. I want to step outside the story for a moment, Because I know some of you are thinking, she just did that at their anniversary party. And I get it. I do. But let me ask you this. If your father hid your property for 12 years, your brother bought a house with your money, your mother knew the whole time, when exactly is the right time to bring it up? Because every time I tried in private, I was shut down. Every single time. Did I go too far? Or was it the only way anyone would listen? I genuinely want to know. Drop it in the comments. All right. Let me tell you what happened in the days after. The party ends the way a funeral ends. People murmuring, touching arms, not knowing what to say, but feeling they should say something before they leave. Paper plates go into trash bags. Foil gets wrapped over dishes nobody finished. The string lights keep blinking. Nobody shakes Dad's hand on the way out. I notice that. I think he notices it too. Hank Patterson stops in front of me by the gate. His eyes are wet, which startles me. I've never seen Hank show emotion beyond mild irritation at a bad chess move. Your grandfather would be proud of you. He reaches into his shirt pocket and pulls out a business card, handwritten on a piece of cardboard. If you ever need a character witness, you call me. I take the card. Thank you, Hank. He pats my shoulder once, hard, the way men of his generation express everything they can't say, and walks to his truck. Mr. Wellman's car is already gone. He left during my speech and didn't come back. I imagine he's sitting in his office right now, opening a filing cabinet and wondering how much of this is going to land on him. Inside the house, Dad is in the bedroom with the door locked. I can hear the TV through the wall. Some football game, volume too loud, the way he always drowns out conversations he doesn't want to have. Mom sits at the kitchen table in her lavender dress, alone, surrounded by anniversary cards she hasn't opened. She looks up when I pass through but doesn't speak. I don't either. There's nothing left to say in this house tonight. Maggie and I drive back toward Columbus in her car. Halfway through Zanesville, she says, Eugene would have handled it exactly like that. I watch the road and let myself believe her. 6 days later, Wednesday, my phone rings at 9 p.m. Todd. His voice is different. The swagger is gone. No sarcasm, no big brother condescension. He sounds like he hasn't slept. Kristen wants to know the whole story. She's talking about separating. I close my laptop, sit on the edge of my bed. I'm sorry about Kristen, but that's between you and her. You could have told me first, privately. I would have. You had 3 years, Todd. 3 years to tell me yourself. Silence. Long enough that I check the screen to make sure he's still there. I know. His voice drops. I knew it was wrong. It was easier not to think about it. I understand that. And I do. That's the worst part. I understand exactly how someone can know something is wrong and still look the other way because the alternative is too hard. I've watched my mother do it for 35 years. But easier for you came at my expense. Literally. More silence. Then, I'm sorry, Gab. He means it. I can tell. It's the first time he's apologized to me about anything since he backed his car into my bicycle when I was 12, and even then, Dad made him say it. I hear you, I say, but sorry doesn't pay back $45,000. I hear him exhale, a shaky sound, the sound of a man who just realized his marriage, his house, and his relationship with his sister are all in the same fire, and he only has one bucket. What happens now? He asks. Now you talk to Kristen, and you figure out a plan. I hang up, set the phone on the nightstand, stare at the ceiling. I don't feel victorious. I just feel tired and clear. Saturday morning. A knock at my apartment door. No text beforehand, no call. I look through the peephole and see my father. He's wearing a flannel shirt with a stain on the pocket. Unshaved, eyes red at the rims. He looks 10 years older than he did a week ago. I open the door. He doesn't step inside. He stands in the hallway like he's not sure he's allowed. I'm not here to fight, he says. I'm here to explain. I lean against the doorframe. I don't invite him in. I don't close the door either. In 2014, he starts. When your grandfather died, I owed $60,000 from the shop. Second time it failed. Bank was threatening to take the house. I didn't know what to do. He looks at the carpet. The properties were just sitting there, in your name. I told myself I'd borrow against them, get clear of the debt, and pay it all back before you ever needed to know. But one loan led to another. He nods, doesn't deny it. Why didn't you ask me? When I turned 18, 21, any time in the last decade? Because by then I owed too much. He meets my eyes for the first time, and I was ashamed. I stand there looking at my father, and for one moment, I don't see a villain or a con man. I see a 58-year-old guy from a small town who lost 2 businesses and panicked and made a choice that got worse every year he didn't fix it. But understanding someone doesn't mean absorbing what they did. Dad, I believe you were desperate, but you could have been honest. That would have cost you nothing. I hold the doorframe. Instead, you chose to lie, and it cost you everything. The properties are mine. That's not negotiable. He nods once, turns, walks down the hall. He doesn't look back. Monday. Finch's formal letter arrives at the Lawson residence via certified mail. 30-day notice to begin transferring property control back to Gabrielle Marie Lawson, with a 90-day litigation clock running in the background. Wednesday. The bank calls Raymond. 2 mortgage officers and a compliance manager want to review the authorization documents on his loans. Mr. Wellman, it turns out, has been placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. He approved $275,000 in loans on properties where the deed holder never signed. That's not a gray area. Thursday. Finch calls me with an update. The bank's legal department has already reached out. They're not interested in defending Raymond's loans. They want to resolve this quietly. The phrase regulatory exposure comes up twice. By Friday, Dad has put his work truck up for sale. His plumbing equipment is listed on a local buy and sell page. He's liquidating, slowly, but he's doing it. Mom calls me Sunday. Her voice is different. Not the voice she uses to smooth things over. Flatter. More honest. Like she's finally too tired to perform. I should have stopped him years ago. I was afraid. I know, Mom, but being afraid doesn't make it okay. No, she says. It doesn't. It's the most honest exchange we've had in my entire life. It lasts 45 seconds, and it changes nothing, and it changes everything. I don't file criminal charges. I don't want my father in jail. I want the properties back, the rent money accounted for, and a payment plan for the rest. Finch draws up a settlement proposal. Raymond signs it without negotiation. Todd sends me a cashier's check for $5,000. A note attached. First installment. More coming. It's not much, but it's a start. And it's the first honest money my brother has ever given me. 3 weeks after the party, on a Thursday afternoon when I call in sick to work for the first time in 4 years, I drive to Buckeye Lake. The cabin sits back from the water behind a row of pines that weren't there the last time I visited. I was 15 then. Grandpa was driving. He let me control the radio. I park in the gravel pullout and sit in the car for a long time. The lake is gray and flat under a November sky. A heron stands in the shallows, perfectly still, like it's waiting for something it knows will come. The tenant moved out last month. Finch sent them a notice when the property reverted to me. I unlock the front door with a key the rental management company mailed to my apartment in a padded envelope. Inside, it's smaller than I remember. Pine walls, a kitchen the size of a closet, a wood stove in the corner with a cast-iron kettle on top. The tenant left it clean, mostly. A few scuff marks on the floor, a towel hanging on the bathroom hook. But on the small table by the window, there's a logbook. Guest log. And on the very first page, before any tenant entries, in handwriting I could identify from across a room. This cabin is for Gabby. Treat it well. I sit on the porch steps. The wood is cold through my jeans. In front of me, the dock stretches out over the water, exactly where it was when I was 10, and Grandpa taught me to skip stones. I pull out his letter, read the last line one more time. You don't owe anyone your silence, not even me. Be brave, Gabby. I cry. The first time since I opened the box. I sit on those steps and let it come. All of it. The anger, the grief, the relief. And I don't stop it. 3 months later. February. My 30th birthday. The Finch deadline passes without incident. The properties are mine in full. No lawsuit necessary. Just paperwork, patience, and a 74-year-old lawyer who kept a 12-year promise. 412 Main Street. I keep it. The tenant, a young couple who've been renting for 3 years, stays. Rent goes to an account in my name now. First deposit, $1,400. I stare at the number on my banking app like it's written in a language I'm just learning to read. The 40 acres off Route 33, the fraudulent mortgage is being unwound. The bank worked with Finch to void the lien. Raymond owes the difference. He's paying it in monthly installments, which means he'll be paying it for a very long time. The cabin. I drive out on weekends. I replaced the porch steps, bought a new kettle for the wood stove, hung a photo on the wall that Maggie found in a box at her place. Grandpa and me, age 6, standing in the bed of his blue F-15, both of us squinting into the sun. My relationship with Mom is cautious. We talk on the phone every other Sunday. Short calls, no pretending. She started seeing a counselor, her first time at 56. She told me that last week, and I said I was proud of her, and I meant it. Dad and I don't talk. I told him through Finch, when he's ready to have an honest conversation, I'll be here. The door is open, but I'm not going to knock on his anymore. Todd sent 3 more checks. He and Kristen are in couples counseling. She hasn't left him. Yet. But she moved into the guest room, and he knows why. I enrolled in a paralegal certification program. Classes start in March. First time in my life, I have a 5-year plan that's actually mine. On the night of my birthday, I sit at the cabin table with a pen and a sheet of lined paper, the same college-ruled stationery Grandpa used for his letter. I found a pack of it at a Staples in Columbus and bought it without thinking. I write, "Dear Grandpa, I found it. I opened it, and I didn't let them stop me. You were right about the properties. You were right about Dad. You were right that I'd have to fight for it. And you were right that I'd need help. Mr. Finch is everything you said he'd be, and I think he misses you almost as much as I do. But you were wrong about one thing. In your letter, you said you were sorry. You said you were sorry you couldn't be there to hand me the box yourself. You said you were sorry it had to be this way. You have nothing to be sorry for. You're the reason I'm sitting here. You gave me 3 properties. That's what everyone talks about. The money, the deeds, the legal drama. But that's not the real thing you left me. The real thing was the last line of your letter. You don't owe anyone your silence. I carried that sentence with me into a tent full of 50 people, and it gave me the only permission I'd ever needed. Permission to tell the truth out loud. I love you. I miss you. And I wish you could see this cabin right now. The pines are taller than the roof. The heron is still here. Gabby. I fold the letter and place it inside the walnut box, which sits on the shelf above the wood stove next to a framed photo. Grandpa and me on the truck, 2002. The year he decided to give me a future my parents couldn't take away. I close the lid. The box stays. It's past 10 when I walk out to the dock. The lake is black and still, reflecting a sky full of stars you can't see from Columbus. The air is cold enough to see my breath. I sit at the edge, sneakers off, feet dangling above water I'm not brave enough to dip into in February. Behind me, the cabin windows glow with the warm orange of the wood stove. In front of me, nothing but open water and silence, and the kind of darkness that doesn't feel empty. It feels finished. People will tell you that keeping the peace is the same as keeping your family. It's not. Sometimes keeping the peace means keeping quiet, while someone takes what's yours and calls it love. I did that for 12 years. Not because I was weak, because I didn't know. And the people who were supposed to tell me decided their comfort mattered more than my future. My grandfather gave me 3 properties, but the real gift was permission. Permission to stop being quiet. Permission to believe that what I deserved wasn't something I had to earn by disappearing. I'm not dead to this family. I don't know what I am to them anymore, exactly. Daughter, plaintiff, the one who ruined the party. But I know what I am to myself. I'm the most alive I've ever been. That's my story. Or at least, that's where it stands right now. If you've ever had to choose between peace and honesty in your own family, I see you. And I hope this helped, even a little. If you want more stories like this, there's one in the description I think you'll really connect with. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. I've got more coming. And leave a comment. What would you have done differently? Would you have waited longer, or would you have opened that box sooner? I read every single one. Thank you for being here. It means more than